everyone. So we finally get 9 points in the bag for the first time in 6 years. Not a bad start for Don Hansi Flick.
Not at all. I don't think many of us are expected to be here 9 points in the bag after 3 games because those 3 games, I mean, those were 3 difficult games, and I don't think I did not expect this, especially after this rocky start today. I mean, I was like, okay, this is not good. This is we're kind of falling apart here. But the reaction from the team and just the way they handled that pressure, the way they Flick decide, okay, I need to change things, I need to change the setup a little bit, change the players a little bit. All of that is different, it's still early days, yes, I know, and everyone keeps saying that, and you're right. It is early days. It's too difficult to judge just yet, but the early signs are quite good. What's your take?
Oh, without a doubt. I didn't expect this at all. Even if we had lost points today, mentally I would have been okay. To be entirely
Mm,
honest with you, Barca has never been an easy place for us to play. And if you look into how the last few seasons have gone and the scores and the way Rayo played, they're not afraid to have a go at us. The pressing is top notch. They're running till the 100th minute. We've always found them hard,
mhm,
and the stadium is small and all of that stuff. So all of that taken into consideration, and finally, given our state of the squad, what we have, it's a paper thin squad that we have. There are kids playing everywhere. I like the fact that Flick persisted with the changes up
mhm,
front, even though he knew it would affect us, and it did. But he did hang on to that, and he only changed Balde late in the game so that he doesn't have to play that much, and that gives him probably some support or what have you.
mhm.
Um, the only concern I would have is probably Mark Nall's. I think it looks like a serious injury. You never
It
know
does.
until we hear from. And if he's out, then that's a concern, I would say. Even though we have Casado, but I don't think they're the same players. And this is
Yeah.
a problem that Flick will face throughout, because there's probably one player per person that he has who's good, to that extent. He doesn't really have the luxury of having two really good players per position. And
Mhm,
with our transfer window, I don't think it'll happen. So
mhm,
till December, I think it's this is what we are going to see, and that's a lot of games. So
mhm,
how how we can adjust to that will be what Flick has to work out, because this is the squad that he has, whether he likes it or not, and it's a shame, but it's just the reality of what it is. So beyond that, honestly, I don't like. There's no point in tactically analyzing this too much, because I think what else would you do? Like, yes, you can say that okay, this part is not working well or that part is not working well, but the point is, even what Flake has, the fact that he has even delivered this much, I'm super happy. That's the honest take.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, there are some tactical kinks that we could discuss. Obviously, there's always something that you can kind of dissect and see. Okay, this is what's gone wrong. This is what's gone right. And I think okay, people were kind of shocked with the way that Rayo came out and faced us so head on, so aggressively, and we didn't know how to react. We didn't know how
Exactly.
to calm down the game. I think that was a big thing that everyone was talking about on the timeline, at least on my from my perspective. And I think it kind of ties into the whole team selection team thing that we talked about in the last live dev, where we kind of discussed when you have Ferran Torres on the left side, where you have Rafinha as a number 10, your team is kind of not optimized for that control anyway. So that when you look at that lineup from Flick and you look at the intent that usually Flick brings into those games, you're not really expecting maximum control. What you are expecting of you, what you should be expecting is Barca going at it constantly, right? And that kind of played into Rayo's whole game plan, because
Yep.
that's what they want to do. They want to be that aggressive, and when you are that aggressive, when you are just rushing your attacks and then you lose the ball quickly, then they can launch their attacks immediately. So that's, and then you have like a tennis match. You just go left to right constantly. There's no pause. There's no breather in between. And Raya were winning all the second balls because they do have that. We didn't have that. Mark Bernal won't win you the second balls. Pedri won't win you the second balls. And if our pressing through Rafinha and Ferran Torres doesn't work, then there's no one to scoop up those balls, and that's why Barca were lacking control. This is where one of those instances where dueling actually brings you control, right? So it's not just on the ball what you do, but also how you contain the opposition through dueling, through that maybe that physical edge, maybe through those distances and compactness. But we didn't have that, right? So we played Rayo's game, and we were obviously not going to win Rayo's game. So that was kind of the thing. So it makes sense that when you move Rafinha to the left and you bring Dani Olmo, the thing kind of shifts, the whole paradigm shifts, because now you suddenly have the means to kind of be a bit more control on the ball, be more calm and maybe more connected in possession. And I like that, because Lamine, Olmo, and Pedri, they kind of give you that. They have that small space domination that you can actually use to control games. So I feel like that was a good adaptation for Flick, and tactically that was the biggest thing, right? That was the biggest shift. And also I think Rayo just kind of lost their energy, their steam. They just that was them. They had their 30 minutes, they scored a goal, and that was it. And the rest was just hanging on and hoping not to concede, which they obviously have three times. It could have been more potentially, but I'm
Yeah,
happy with
that's what I
it.
liked. I think, I mean, even with forget all the refereeing stuff, because there'll always be things to talk about
Hmm.
referee and sort of grado and all of that stuff. But even without that, I think
Hmm.
Lewandowski missed a complete sitter. He played well. I'm
Hmm.
not questioning that. He did score a goal, which I thought should have been a goal, but it's okay. It
Hmm.
is what it is. Um, so even with that, I think the ability that Flick had almost a 3-1 or a 4-1 in his hand, right?
Hmm.
That's insane. Uh,
Hmm.
he understood. He took it in for the first 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, as you rightly said. Then he adjusted the game a little bit. The whole team adjusted a little bit. And then after that, it was much more in control. And the team played in that manner. And we created a ton of chances again from that perspective. It was a very open game. Everybody's running around and nobody's trying to control anything, which is yeah. So to the first people, hope Bernal is okay. And have you heard anything more about? No, we haven't. We are not journalists, so we won't have, any sources inside the club who will give us extra news. We know exactly what you guys know.
Mm. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm trying to find something on Twitter and on Facebook and stuff, and he seems to be limping still, and he seems to be walking with the help of other officials. So, unfortunately, it's not looking well. From just the
yeah,
first images and videos, it's not looking well. But it could be too early to say. I'm hoping it's too early to say. But
yeah, and
well,
I think we have got one more game. I think by the way, and then it's an international break, right?
yeah,
No?
yeah, yeah, yeah. One game and then off. Yeah, yeah.
I think, I mean, that way we are probably not that unlucky. So hopefully we can manage one game with Casado, and then,
Mm.
hopefully in that time and the national break that comes through, Bernal will be okay. Yes, we are, Isaac. We are also equally worried about Bernal's injury. So now we have a decimated. Everybody's either injured or sold. That's
Mm.
FC Barcelona. Whoever's not in, either you sell them or they're injured. That's basically.
Yeah, I know.
So
So we're
yeah,
probably probably facing a Pedri Casado double pivot, which I don't. it's a it's a lot of dynamism. It's
yeah.
and there's not enough of just horizontality. Let's put it that way. Of course, Pedri can do that sitting pass first horizontal type of thing, but you want Pedri everywhere. You want Pedri involved in everything that you do on the pitch, and that kind of limits him because Bernal, as crucial as he is, he does have like a small pocket, a small zone that he needs to control, and then the
Mhm.
rest is covered by Pedri and Rafinha and Olmo. So in that sense, Bernal's responsibility is kind of lessened intentionally, and that kind of optimizes his use anyway. So I think that's the right thing to do from Flick. But now, if you put Pedri in that role, suddenly you have a player who needs to do more, but the role would kind of limit him to a much smaller area of influence, and that's really bad for Pedri. Now, having Casado and Pedri, in theory, yes, in possession they can do the job because they're both used to volume. They're both very good progressors. They both press resistant. So you do have like a double pivot of two very technical, diminutive midfielders, and it's like a De Zerbi double pivot. We discussed this Dev,
Yeah.
on our channel before. De Zerbi would play something like this. He would prefer to have a less physical, more technical double pivot, and he wouldn't mind that. Now, can Flick do the same? I'm not sure because of the style of play that he kind of brings with him. I don't know if that's the right way to go. I mean, he would have to adapt or maybe dose that verticality and that aggressiveness, um, taking into consideration that he has Pedri, that he has Casado, and he needs to have the ball and he needs to have the opponent pinned down and he needs to have a very, very stable phase of possession. Because if you don't have a stable phase of possession with those two guys, and then you have Rafinha who's very high up the pitch, and you probably have Casado who will also be up the pitch, I could see a lot of issues there. But we'll see. Let's wait and see. Maybe Bernal comes back and then that kind of sorts itself
Yeah,
out.
it is. This is we can't. We have to be mentally very prepared for this. With this squad depth, injuries will happen, and when that happens, you can't save it every week. So it's going to happen this week
Mhm,
or the next week.
mhm,
Till December, we are going to have a tough time,
mhm,
and how Flick adjusts to it, it's really we've not given him much to play with here. There's a
mhm,
question on where do De Jong and Gavi fit. I think they both fit in right well. I don't think we should expect 17-year-old B team players to
mhm,
be starting every game. That's the
mhm,
anomaly that's happening.
mhm,
So I think they should be on the bench and play the occasional, maybe Crocodile Rare games or what have you. So once De Jong and Gavi are fit, they should be in the squad and playing. Correct.
mhm, mhm,
Um, and regarding Ferran, I think, yeah, I mean, I mean, we've been talking about getting rid of Ferran for a while right now. How many? Like 3 seasons now, 4 seasons probably.
mhm,
Um, the question is, yes, we have to first buy a buyer, find a buyer. That's not going to happen with his wage and the way he has been playing. So he's going to stay till the contract stays. And
mhm,
even if you get rid of him, who do you get with our state of finances? The reality
mhm,
is, emotionally, yes, we can get rid of everybody, and we are kind of getting rid of everybody anyways. But look at the
mhm,
squad depth that we have right now, right? And I doubt that this is maybe there is one signing at pizza hour on the 31st, maybe, but even with that, the squad depth will be insanely thin for till December almost. And I think
mhm.
again in December there'll be a mad rush to get players and what have you. Hopefully by that time we'll figure out our money situation. We don't know about
Yeah.
that at all,
Mm,
and nobody
mhm,
knows. Nobody can solve understand how that actually works out. Um, so yeah, I mean, we got to be mentally prepared that this can happen. Today is Bernal. Tomorrow it can be Perry. It can be Balde. It can be anybody.
Yeah.
Literally, right? In the way we are playing. So, and the moment one of them goes down, Inigo, one of them goes down, that's a problem. Who do you replace? There
Mhm,
are no replacements
mhm,
um, uh, in the in the sense. So, and this Flick, I think you're saying nobody in the dressing room is happy. Mark on all situation doesn't look good. We'll have to wait until tomorrow. So yeah, I mean he can be out. Let's just like it is unfortunate, but this is what will happen when you have a squad depth of that caliber. And these are kids; they were playing in, you know,
yeah.
the Primera third division 1 year back. Not even that. So you can't expect them to take that intensity consistently. They have to learn a lot. So
Mhm.
this is our bad luck or situation or what we have inherited on ourselves. And at least till December, I don't think this is going away. Dom?
Mhm. Yeah, that's very, very likely, and you're right. I mean, this is our own doing, so this is what we have done to ourselves, basically. The issue with going out in the market and buying someone is that Barca have been in this state of kind of stagnating the club by buying players that don't necessarily improve you visibly, but
Yeah.
they're not bad enough to kind of drag you down and become deadwood. So it's kind of the middle. That stagnates the club, doesn't really push it forward enough, and it's bad for overall squad building, right? So even if you did go out in the market, the best we could do is someone like that, right? So that's the best case scenario, and even in that best case scenario, all you're doing is just kind of stagnating. So there's no win situation here per se, I don't think, because we don't have the finances to actually improve the squad. We can add some depth, but that depth will likely not be of any extraordinary or even sufficient quality. I would say at this point. And yes, Tah is an example of a player that could be good, but at the same time, I've seen reports of 30 million upward or something like that. So I don't know. I don't really know if that's even possible at this point. Now, we do have injuries, and personally, I think even if Bernal is deemed fit, this knock, it just
It's
don't play him. You can't play him.
don't play him. Yeah, I mean,
You can't play him. So I would not risk him in the next game anyway. So Flick has to think, okay, what do I do for the next game? And yeah, Simon says, what about? I'm guessing Romeo. You meant Romeo here? Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I guess
but we were
Romeo.
unhappy with Romeo when he was there, anyways. Look
So
at
yeah.
our fan base. Nobody was happy when Romeo was there.
Mm,
Everybody blamed him for last
mhm,
year, right?
mhm,
And we wanted him gone. Now he's gone. Now we are unhappy that he's gone. There's no win, right? Because this is what happens when you buy players, big players, right, who are not elite level, but who are there
mhm,
to cover up gaps in your squad because you don't have the money or what have
mhm,
you. They don't perform, and then they don't perform, we all get upset, and it's a cycle that keeps repeating itself, so on and so forth. Correct. So
yeah.
if and today, as you rightly said, like today it's Bernal. Tomorrow, I think in the next game, let's say a Pedri gets injured, he's one shove away from injury. And
Mhm,
Inigo gets injured, who is one lunge away from injury, and so on and so forth. It is going to happen, right? And do we have the squad for that? We don't. And that's the
mhm,
reality. Like you can bring in a Quim Junient or a Sergi Dominguez, and this is Hector Fort, and this is basically what we are going to do to plug in the holes because that's all we
mhm,
can. Um,
mhm,
but I think this is a problem for the squad, and I don't know whether even in December this can be fixed in that manner because there are way just too many of these across the board, right?
mhm,
Um, so while yes, we are very happy with yes, it's all La Masia and young Barca players, and we are fighting and we are doing all of that stuff, which is very romantic. The truth is,
mhm.
these are kids, and if we are using them every week, and this is just Liga. Imagine when Copa del Rey and Champions League and all of that. That's 3 games a week, correct?
Mm.
With this squad, 3 games a week, it's you're asking for
Yeah, yeah.
miracles. So
Too much. Too
it's
much.
just it is just what it is. So all right, let's go to some questions, bro. Send 70 million plus Ferran plus Ansu for Liao. Yeah,
Yeah, I
say this to a AC
mean,
Milan fan who have lots of complaints about Liao. And then I always find it very interesting. Like we always say, okay, you know what? Okay, Liao will come and will solve our problems. There are a million fans in the Milanisti, and you'll say, "Listen, take him. We're not happy with him
mm,
anyways." Right? So,
mm,
um, yeah, probably. But I think is he that differential? Don't know. Will he cover for all these four players? Again, don't know, right? And that's never going to happen anyways. So they're not Milan's not going to take four players and give us Leao. Leao's not happening in that manner. Milan's going to ask for money, and we don't have that kind of money.
no.
From that perspective. Okay, will this Nike deal ever get done? I'll touch upon it and then pass it on to you, Dom. The truth is, we don't know. Right? Will it get done? Yes, it will. Is it that simple? No, because a deal worth $1.1 billion cannot be signed by Laporta alone. It has to go into the AGM. There has to be
Mm,
approval, right? AGM cannot happen in 2 days. I don't see that happening, right? So in that case, I don't see how it gets done before the transfer window closes. This is
mhm,
just too big an amount for us to just sign off like that. That okay, I came in and I signed off. It's like $1.2 billion or $1-ish billion that we're talking about, and it's till
mhm,
2038. That's almost two more presidents, right? Basically.
mhm,
So when you're signing that deal, I think it has to go through the AGM. I may be wrong, not that I understand that much. But if it does, then it's going to take time for that to happen. And I don't think all these talks about La Liga seeing some provisional thing and allowing us to buy players is true. I don't think La Liga has been uh, you know uh, even mildly helpful in that manner, and rightfully so. They're following the rules, right? If that's the rule, that's the rule. They're following it. So I don't think will it happen? Yes, it will happen because there's no other option, right? It's
mhm,
legal. There is no option. Barca wanted to go out, right? They did a case. The court threw out the case and said, no, you cannot. You have to pay compensation if you want to walk out of the deal. Barca can't pay compensation. So either they decide that, okay, till 2028, they go with Nike and then they part ways, or they do the deal. I think they will do the deal because it's in benefit for everyone. But for this deal to work out, and where Mikey has all the leverage, right? Because we were hearing about 115, now we are hearing about 90, right? And that's $25 million. Our Sixth Street cost is about $40 million a year, right? So that's a lot of money that we're talking about. So everybody's pushing for the best deal. It's not an easy one. This is the biggest deal that probably Barca is going to get to
Mm-hmm.
balance their finances. So it's
Mm-hmm.
going to take time, and it's going to be ratified by the assembly, right? So I don't, based on that, I don't think it can happen. I may be wrong though. Barcelona does funny things, so if we may just very well have it that it's all done and sorted in the next 2 days and then happens. So to me, that's, I would say, that's what it is. And yes, there has been a lot of discussion about, it is going to happen, like it is just happening, it happening like tomorrow, right? And we have been there. Like this deal has changed all the definition of happening, done, delivered.
Yeah,
All the words have
imminent. Yeah.
imminent. Like imminent is now 7 months, right? That's
Yeah,
it.
imminent. It means something
So
else in Catalan, obviously. I think it's a different
it's
language kind of thing.
totally, man. But it is very complex. It is
Mm,
extremely complex. There are two court cases. There is two parties who are obviously not happy with each other. There are legal issues out here. Then many things. Our jersey, second jersey, has not yet come out. Think about how complex that is, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
it's not going to be easy. If it happens, I'm the happiest person in the planet.
mhm.
But then if it happens, I mean, knowing Barcelona, I don't even know who they spend their money on, right? Suddenly now we hear a Jonathan Tah and he becomes amazing. And then we'll hear somebody else and he becomes amazing. And we have never been very good in buying players in the last few years at all, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, we get the money and then very, very, we don't have that much. And then we go and buy whoever we want to. And that doesn't work out. That's more problem. So anyway, I'll pass it on to you, Dom, for your thoughts on
I'm not gonna pretend I'm some sort of financial expert, so I'm not gonna delve too deep into that. The only thing I would say is that even if the money comes, let's say the money comes and Barca suddenly are back to 1 and everything is fine and our finances are actually in a healthy state, I don't. You have like a 3 or 4 days until the end of the window, right? So w- realistically, there is no way you can get a star as big as Leao in 4 days without gruesome negotiating and a lot of back and forth and the player needs to be pushing really hard to get out of his club and go to Barca, and that's just assuming that Barca would have the money to go for such a player. So I don't think this is an operation that we can actually finish in time, even if we had the means to do so, even if we try to do so in the last couple of days of the transfer window. Maybe it's possible, but I don't see it, especially after who was it? It was Milan sporting director or someone who came out that Lau is 100% not leaving the club. So after such a statement and given Barca's trouble with registering Olmo, I just don't see anything close to Leao, close to that the size of that transfer happening anytime soon. So I just don't see it as a possibility. Now, number two is even if we had the money, we have the ability, and let's say Barca could actually get that deal over the line. Now that there's a question, should we even do that? Because now you're spending, suddenly you have so much money to spend and you have your finances in check and everything's fine. Now, do you immediately, the second you get that money, the second you get that stability, or maybe a fraction of that stability, do you or should you go out in the market and suddenly spend 90 or 100 million euros on a single player? Does that make sense
and
for
what
us?
have we learned from
Ex-
Coutinho and Dembele
exactly.
and
Um,
Griezmann and
well, let's say
there's a
Leao is the
long
right.
history of us doing this with money. I mean, should
Mhm.
we do that again?
Yeah, exactly. And even if we say, okay, Lao is the perfect signing that will fit and he will perform, he likely will because he's such a player that he doesn't really he's very self-sufficient, right? So he will do magical things, not maybe all the time, but he will do magical things regardless of the team state, right? So he can do that. He does have that in him. However, from a squad building perspective, it's the same question that we asked of the Dani Olmo signing. For example, now look at Dani Olmo. He completely changed the game. He changed the dynamics of that team. He changed the whole outlook, and then he scored a winning goal. And now people will say, "Oh, but Dom, you said that we shouldn't spend money on Olmo." And look, we said it. Olmo's going to come in. He's going to score goals. He's going to be very impactful. He could even become one of Barca's most important players by the end of the season. However, 60 million on Olmo is not the from a purely financial and squad building perspective is not the most optimal or the best best case scenario or the best course of action a Barca in their current state should be doing. So it's the same question for Leao. Do you, once you're theoretically in this hypothetical situation, once you're healthy financially, should you immediately go out and break the bank for a single player? Now that's my question, because it's a very, very complex situation where yes, you get a game breaker you get that superstar that will, I don't know, best case scenario, he rivals Mbappe at Real Madrid. But then again, do we go and spend such money on one player when our squad is so thin that we do not know who we're going to play week in, week out, because of the injuries, because of registrations, because of the just age of our players? Because you can't play these youth players 90 minutes for a full season every single week. I mean, you could, but look at what happened to Pedri. Look at what happened to Ansu. I mean, these things, I don't know. Just to me, this is more than just thinking about money in and money out. It's just there's so much more to it, and I'm just looking at the questions here. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem to be looking good for Bernal, unfortunately, from the
Yeah,
look of
and I
things.
mean, for that young guy, like there are two things, right? First of all, he gets played, so he plays, and now if he has an ACL, that's a year, right? Just at the time when that boy needs to be nurtured and protected, and so that he can build his career, right?
Mhm,
So this is just, and this is where the discussion on,
mhm,
okay, if we get 60 million, what do we do? Do we really make the squad more healthier, or do we go for that one shiny signing? That's the question, right? And we've always gone for the shiny signing. To your
mhm.
questions is yes, we'll come back to your question on Pablo Torre. But
Yeah.
before that, I think Jonathan asked about, what should we focus on? I've said this, like, if we get top four this season in La Liga, good
Mhm.
with what we have.
Yeah.
I've always maintained that. And CL and Copa del Rey, I wouldn't even bother about. And in this year, given this situation, if we continue like this, uh, yes, we have brought down the wage bill to a large extent. If we can hold this for 1 year, right, I think
Mhm.
we'll be in a one-on-one situation much better. And if the stadium happens, hopefully for next year, then possibly go and spend a little and improve the squad. But this year, just Liga, top four, good enough for me. And on Pablo Torre, I think he will get used, because if this continues, right, sooner or later, he's going to get used. We're 38 games into the season. We're in match day 3, right? And I think there'll be enough time for all these fringe players that we have to get used, because there will be no option left. So will he be unused from a tactical perspective per se? I don't think we'll have that much of freedom to define tactics in every game, and be like, okay, for this is the way we are going to go about things, right? Our hands will be pushed. The entire reason we are playing so many kids is not because of some tactics, it's because our hands are pushed, because we cannot afford to do anything else. That's the reality of the situation.
Mhm.
All right, back to you, Tom.
No, I mean same thoughts. I think Pablo Torre might be used as early as next game, with the way things are going currently. But yeah, I mean I can see your frustration, quote unquote, with Pablo Torre, because yes, I mean he could theoretically slot as that higher interior eight, so a higher eight potentially, who has more freedom to go forward and be a presence in the final third, and he also has some of those elements of a number 10. But remember, Flick's number 10 is very, very specific, and that's why we had some questions of for Olmo as well. We didn't know if he would be the ideal choice. And notice today, even when Rafinha switched to the left side and Olmo came in, yes, we got more control, more stability, and more playmaking potential from the middle, but also our press kind of dropped off. We were not no longer pressing from the front. We were kind of dropping deeper. We're staying in that mid block, because suddenly your number 10 is no longer that workhorse that you had in Rafinha. So it's a very complex role. It doesn't really, if you just look at the things that Pablo Torre does in possession and in attack, you're just looking at half the picture, right? So it's not that simple. So while there could be a potential role for him in the midfield, it's more of an 8. But then if it's an 8, you're competing with Pedri. Okay, Pedri, granted, shouldn't be playing every game in all games. So potentially there is some room for rotation there. But then again, has Pablo Torres shown us that he can actually be the one to replace Pedri, and for your team not to suffer in quality too much, because the drop off from Pedri to Pablo Torre is still quite big. And also, if you play him as a number 10 instead of Rafinha, obviously there's a huge drop off there as well. So it's very, very difficult for Pablo Torre to come in and reliably give you enough quality and enough value from all those positions. So he might be a rotational piece, but only if as Dev said, if Flick's hands are completely tied and he has to use him. Because at this point we're talking about a squad that's so thin that we might even see Pau Prim. I don't know, because
Yeah,
Pau, yeah,
I'm
how old is Pau
pretty
Prim?
sure.
He's like 18 or something. So Pau Prim could come in theoretically and be that pivot, because Pau Prim is more of a pivot than Bernal is, but he just hasn't had the exposure yet. But the talent is there and the profile is there, so I could see it, because Flick doesn't have anyone else, and Prim kind of fits
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. We are going to get a lot of B players coming in. No questions on that. We are.
So
Sooner
so
or
so I would sooner see someone like Pau Prim come in now to replace Bernal, and what a story that would be. One La Masia kid replacing the other in the senior team. Yeah, that would be quite something. I feel like Pau Prim would come in and he shouldn't be struggling, right? He should slot in that Bernal role quite well. Now, is Fleck actually going to do that, or is he going to try and somehow combine Casado and Pedri and Olmo and I don't know, and even Pablo Torre ahead of Prem? We'll see, but I think the option is there, and it's actually quite an exciting one. And now, should we do that? I don't know. Should we bring more youngsters into the team? I guess you can never have too many, I guess. But at the same time, this should not be a squad
don't,
that actually,
hands are
yeah,
tied. Our hands are
mm,
tied. We just don't
yeah,
have the liberty of saying, "Oh, this is what we want to do." We'll do what we are forced to do to a large extent. Another question around, should we sign somebody? Yeah, we should. I just don't think we have the money. That's
mm,
basically what I think at this moment, because I think with all the stuff that happened, with all the sales that happened, I think they just were able to register Fati and Roque, and that was a large salary size. And then Christensen went. Something happened with Christensen. Let's
yeah.
just keep it there. And Dani Olmo got registered, and I think that's the end of it. Like, unless there's some magic money coming in, I don't know where we are
Mhm.
going to get. Yeah, where we're going to get the new signing
The money,
from.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it's a great time to be Barca B. Imagine the frustration of Barca B when
Hmm.
Messi and all of them were playing. Like, they just spent 15 years without getting a chance in the first team. Like, literally, they were so unlucky, right? And these days, it's like you play 5 games and then you're in the first
Mm,
team, because first team has
mm.
nobody.
Yep, yep.
So it's just what that looks like. Okay, we answered a few questions, but let's go back into the game a little bit. What do you feel about you know how almost first game was? I know you talked about the fact that he changed the complexion of the game, and
Mm, mm.
all that stuff, which is great. But let's go a little bit depth. What did he bring in? Where do you feel Flick is going to use him consistently? Because I'm guessing he'll be used consistently. And does it mean the
Yeah.
end of Ferran Torres starting games, unless
I f-
somebody?
yeah, I would say so. In terms of the pecking order, I think this game, I mean, even before the game, I think we had some sort of to predict that almost going to replace someone in the starting lineup was it was an easy prediction, more or less. And now Ferran Torres seems to be the one that will be sacrificed, quote unquote. And I think Flick likes Ferran because Ferran's profile as a left winger kind of mimics whatever Flick used to like. In his left wingers or just wingers in general at Bayern back in the day. So some sort of an inverted runner and very hard-working player. So I think Ferran does fit that. Now Olmo doesn't fit it necessarily as much as Ferran, but he brings you so much more quality, right? And he actually has that box presence. I mean, not that Ferran doesn't have it, but I think almost box presence and his the way that he creates separations, the way that he moves inside the box are top notch, and we have seen that. On the last live dev, I mentioned that Olmo needs to dose and his outside the box shots. That he needs to have better temperament on the ball, and you saw it today. He was shooting from outside the box, even rattled the post, but then as soon as he got inside the box, he creates that separation and he scores the goal from a very, very good position. And as soon as he starts taking shots from such positions more in games, I think his goal scoring will just explode. It will skyrocket, right?
Yeah,
So that's the only thing that's keeping Olmo from becoming a more reliable goal scorer for Barcelona, and he can absolutely be that, and I'm sure he will, if he keeps doing this and if he stays fit, obviously. Now, what does he bring? He brings you exactly that. He brings you a dose of press resistance as well. He brings you more central combinations. He brings you ball carrying and dribbling. But most of all, he's a volume shooter, right? He likes to shoot, just needs to find better positions to shoot from, and Barca need that. And even his long shots are valuable here, because when you struggle to break down such low blocks that are so congested, so tight, so deep into the pitch, long shots can help unlock that. If your combinations cannot, long shots just might. So I feel like Olmo is kind of a solution to multiple different problems. Now, if he's going to play number 10, I said earlier today, if he is to play the number 10, he will have to emulate Rafinha's work rate, and I don't think he can do that. So there will have to be a compromise of some sort, because if you don't press from the middle, if you have Lewandowski and Olmo down the middle and they don't press as much, that means that all your pressure comes from the sides. And that's fine from goal kicks, when you can actually corner the goalkeeper and force him down the middle, where he can then collapse from the sides. That works, right? But then in other situations, Barca may suffer. So I'm looking forward to seeing how will Flick adapt to having someone who's not a Rafinha when it comes to pressing. And then now I can see the comment. Van Lee says Bernal is out for the season.
yeah. If it's an ACL, that's a year, so it's gone.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's the end of it, right? So, and that's so sad. He's just
yeah,
such a young kid, and he wants
uh,
to build his career, and that's just 1 year gone, and you never know how he'll come back. With
yeah,
ACL, you never know how the player comes back. So I feel like terrible. But this
yes,
is the risk that we are facing with every single one of these kids that we are playing. That's the problem. That's the
yeah,
difference between professional, people who play in the and kids. And
mm,
our hands are forced, so we are playing kids all the time. And this is just unfortunate, and sad.
yeah,
Frankly speaking, it's sad, and uh, yeah, and this is no strategy. This is no strategy about being La Masia. This is, we have no other option. That's basically what it
yeah.
is.
Yeah. This is it's heartbreaking, because he was this his start to the season was fantastic. I mean, we spoke about Bernal a lot, and we spoke about how he should be eased in and how we should all dose our expectations. But he eclipsed those expectations in the first three
It's
games.
just
He was, yeah,
20,
he
30
was,
minutes a game probably is max for them to just get them to understand. But we don't have the capacity. We'll have to play them whole games 3 times, 4 times a
yeah,
week, and that is going to be problematic. And
yeah,
so, going back to the question, when Gavi and De Jong, whenever they are, they
yeah,
are okay, they should just slot right back in and start playing the game. Whether and that's just what it is. So, but yeah, terrible sad news. He was probably the standout in the preseason and even the last few games that we watched, and so young, and gave so much hope to the fan base. So really, really sad for him. Um, we'll have to see what Hansi Flick comes up with in response, because
yeah.
uh, we're not getting midfielders or pivots in the next 3 days of the transfer window. That's just not happening. So
Yeah,
what?
unless they're from Barca B. But is there? I forget. Is there a limit? There is a limit on how many
How many
youngsters you
players you
can
can get in
have.
B? Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a
There's a limit. So I don't know if we have Pau Victor, we have Bernal, we have Casado, we have Jeremy Martin. Do we have any more? I don't even know. So I'm not exactly sure if we have reached that limit, or are we near the limit, or how does that work? I don't even know. I'm not sure. So I will have to check. But if not, I would fully expect Paul Prim to be in the squad. I think that
I mean,
that
yeah, there's no other option, right? If
yeah,
tomorrow, like Pau
yeah.
Prim for the midfield, if tomorrow Inigo
Mm,
goes, it's Sergio Dominguez. It's just there
mm,
are no other options. Who will
mhm.
come and play? There's nobody else to play left. So yeah, that's that. All right, I think like all in, bad news to close with. I'm feeling really bad
Yeah.
hearing this. I was hoping that it's a month, 2 months, but if it's a torn ACL, that's a year. So
Mm,
that's gone. But yeah, overall, I think good game from us, given the situation, context, Yes, we can always nitpick and find a problem with, okay, this is not working, that's not working. But the fact that this team is even working
Hmm.
sometimes surprises me, like really
Yeah,
surprises me, in the fact that we're actually going there and playing and winning, right? So
yeah,
which is
yeah.
great. We should take it with enormous happiness and pride, and hopefully continue the streak into the winter break. Oh, sorry, the first international break. I think till December it's going to be like this until we can figure out the monies, and I think in December probably we'll get a couple of players out there who can balance the load. But that's okay because the league actually gets settled in the
Mm.
in from March onward. Whatever we do right now, it's fine. We can still, there's time to adjust and so on. And I think we should just focus as fans. We should be mindful of what our expectation should be,
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
keep it simple, right? If we want with this team to win everything, we're just delusional. And you know, yeah, just that's so. Any final thoughts from you, Don, before we sign off?
Uh, I think heading into the season, I think our main thing when we discussed all the coaches that could come in and take over the team, one thing that we kept mentioning was that we must be very, very careful not to damage the goods that we have
Yeah,
in the team because we have an amazing foundation. We have these youngsters, we have these players who can be the long term project. They can be our future and our present. But the only thing we have to be very, very careful with is not to damage them, not to do what we have done to Fati and Pedro to an extent. Now, I'm not saying that Flick has done this to Bernal. He has not. This is a freak accident that happens, outside of your control. So I'm not blaming Flick, but just having a squad this thin, which was caused, let's face it, which was caused by the poor planning and poor financial handling of the club and so on and so on. We have put ourselves in the situation where we have no other choice but to damage our goods, right? Because if we play the
that's the
youngsters,
worst part of it. That's the
yeah,
worst
yeah,
part.
yeah,
Like, we are
yeah,
doing this because
yeah,
we have no option, and they will get injured.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's a huge, huge risk, and unfortunately, this is what happens. And yes, I'm sad that we have to end on a bad note, but yeah,
Yeah,
it was a
it's
huge
terrible
win,
news.
though.
It's
A
really
huge,
terrible
yeah,
news.
huge win. A beautiful evening turned sour because we won, but at what cost? At what cost have we won?
And what
Because
was the game? Yeah.
now, yeah, because now I don't know. I
Because it
don't
was
know.
I think it was with Ifi Powerthon, right? When it happened, like, was 5 minutes
Yeah, it
from
was. Yeah, yeah, it was. It
I think
was.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
past
imagine
90
the,
minutes.
the the margin, right? The game could have
Mm,
ended earlier. Nothing would have happened, right? And so on. So
mm,
many ways to look at it. So it's feeling terrible. But yes, but it is fun to watch them again. I agree with Shubham out here. It is much more fun, and
mm,
as long, I think, as we can enjoy that fun and accept that it is not going to be perfect. No coach can perform miracles with what this is, right? So
yeah,
give Flick the time, give Flick the peace of mind, let him do his thing, and hopefully, the people who are in charge of the club can fix the actual problem, which is the money.
yeah.
Once that gets sorted, a lot of this will get sorted, and so on. So
Absolutely.
tactics can't solve for that, right?
Yeah.
So it's just what it is. So good start to the season, top of the league. We should enjoy it completely. 9 points. I think
Mm,
next is 5-8. Hopefully, we'll win. That's 12 points on the trot. Even if not, it's okay. And then we head up into the first international break, and then we get time to recover, and then just go from there. Don,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's about it. And we have to be optimistic. We have to be very optimistic and hopeful. Maybe tomorrow we wake up and they say, okay, but no, it's fine. Nothing happened. False alarm. He's absolutely fine. He'll be playing for the rest of his career at Barcelona and he won't get injured ever. So, you never know. Just to kind of try and end on a slightly positive note. But yeah, you did a pretty good job. We did win. So I
yeah,
think I think
we deserve it.
that's a reason enough to celebrate at least partially.
These games should
Um,
not even tactically analyze. With these kids that we are playing, we should just be happy they're playing, they're winning, they're giving us some,
that's true.
enjoyment. Super happy, and may long it continue. With that, we'll
Absolutely.
sign off, and we'll catch you in the next one after by the weekend. Take care, guys. Thanks for joining.